Hello and welcome back to World of Warcraft. New expansion is released and today I want to take a look at the Withered Army Training scenario. This is a new scenario that's in Suramar that involves taking an army of Withered to fight through this temple and get as far as you can. Now, the first tip I'm going to give you here is to spend the time to invest as much mana in this as you can. If you can get up to 2000 mana, you should absolutely do so. You can only do this once every 3 days, so just putting that little bit extra in there is definitely worthwhile. Another tip I have is that your class has access to a tank spec, you should absolutely use it. Being tank means you can protect your Withered army very effectively. It also grants you stuff like stuns and interrupts for even more protection against various skills the enemies use.
I believe we can use these Withered as a weapon.
So here we are, you just click on the first Arcanist to begin. All of your Withered will spawn in based on how much mana you spent. You can see the buff indicates I have 20. That buff will always give you an indicator of how many you have. So in the first room, I usually just go around the outside edge here. You probably can't see right now, but there's a sort of an arcane elemental in the middle. He's the more dangerous one here, so I'm just clearing the outside edges first so I can get a bit more space to work with. There's no time limit in this scenario, so generally you want to play it safe. Take out the easier enemies first, and just make sure that your Withered are protected. So I've actually pulled him accidentally. Fortunately I spotted it on time, I managed to taunt from my Withered. You want to interrupt this arcane munition ability. What it will do is a huge AoE, and whilst it won't instantly kill your Withered, you can't actually heal these guys, so any damage they take is going to be damage that they just have permanently. When the elemental dies, he'll attempt to do an unstable explosion. This one can't be interrupted, but this is why you go in and make sure you have a stun. You want to stun him and have your Withered nuke him down before he gets unstunned and attempts to cast it again. Generally, if you have maybe 15 plus Withered, you shouldn't have any problem with these guys, assuming you interrupt and stun. So at the crossroads here you have two routes. The route on the right requires 2 Withered Berserkers to unlock, so you won't be able to do this on your first time round. I'm not going to do this right now, I'm just unlocking the door for later because there's a good chance that my Berserkers will die. I'm just going to go down the path here and give you a look. You can see there's the Volatile Wraiths in the room here, and there's a good number of them. I'm just taking this one out now. Same as before, you just want to interrupt the arcane munitions and get the stun up whenever he tries to do the unstable explosion. You'll notice the Withered Berserkers taunt targets. It's kind of annoying, I'm just trying to taunt back to protect them. But you can see in that room there's packs of triple Volatile Wraiths, so it's very difficult to interrupt and stun all of those. So yeah, I'm just taking a look, deciding I'll come back afterwards. Checking my talents for anything useful, maybe Blinding Light, but at this point I pretty much decide that I'll come back when I have more Withered at the end of the scenario. And I would recommend you do the same, because trying to take on 3 of those at once with only a small army, you're probably going to lose most of your army and mess up your whole scenario. So I ought to take the left path here instead. Another Volatile Wraith in the way, you can just dispatch him as quickly as you did the other ones. There's a Withered XL here, you can just click on these to add them to your army, they're dotted all over the dungeon. This door can unlock with 10 Withered, and inside here is the first boss. So I'm just going to go around the outside edge as before and clear everything else that's in my way. So here I engage the boss, I click the extra action button to put the Withers into mayhem mode, causing them to deal extra damage. The boss does this crystalline shrapnel cast, she's just going to debuff you, and at the end of the debuff you'll explode for damage around you. You just want to run away, out of range of your Withered, because you don't want that damage going on to them. Besides that, she tries to cast a single target bolt attack. You can interrupt this, but it's not particularly dangerous. The main mechanic is that crystalline thing, you just want to get away, protect your Withered. That's all this scenario is about. Your actual contribution is just protecting these Withered as much as possible via stuns, interrupts, and just getting yourself out of the way when AoE damage is coming. So I'm proceeding further down into the next section here. This section is full of these little spiderlings. They're relatively harmless, but they do occasionally fixate on a Wither, so it's worth keeping an eye out, just to make sure. You'll notice on the right hand side I can see another Volatile Wraith. I've spotted, however, that there's a Volatile Wraith patrolling around at the same time, so I don't want to pull that one in case the second one gets involved as well. So I'm just going to choose the left path for now and deal with the Wraith that's over here instead. So this Volatile Wraith's finally patrolled around, so I can safely dispatch him apart from his friend. Dealing with two of these at once is a little bit sketchy, so you definitely want to make sure you only ever get one at a time. You can see the score I have at the top of the screen. The score indicates the rewards you get from the final chest at the end, so it's worthwhile just going around making sure to pick off every enemy, get the highest score possible. And there's a downstairs section here. You don't necessarily have to clear it, but there's a chest that spawns down here, plus you can get a few withered occasionally, and you can increase your score on these spiralings. So I would recommend going down here because there's nothing particularly dangerous. Provided your tank spec, you can pick up these spiralings and protect your withers very effectively. You'll notice I've spotted a chest here. One of the tips I'll give is leave these chests until the end. The medium-sized chests will consume 5 of your withers to open, and the large chest will consume 10. But the more withers you have in your army, the better you'll do in this scenario. So it's a good idea to clear all of the enemies and all of the bosses. And then at the end, you can divide your withers up between the chests because you don't need them for combat anymore. If you spend them earlier, you're just making the scenario harder for yourself when it comes to future bosses. So skip these, clear all the stuff, and then come back at the end and get your rewards. So as you descend into the Falinar tunnels, you'll start running into these sort of Nerubian type guys. They're not particularly dangerous, but if they stay alive a while, they'll occasionally do a cast on one of your withered that deals damage over time. Generally they'll pretty much instantly die by this point because your army should be up to around 20 plus. As you can see, I've got 25 here because I picked up 5 extras in addition to the 20 I started with. One of the nice things about this section is the cocoons you can see here. Occasionally you can break these open and they will have an extra withered inside that you can recruit to your army. However, sometimes they simply have a hostile withered that you can quickly dispatch of. Now when you reach this section you want to start being very careful because there's a secret boss, or rather a hidden boss that can spawn here, and he can quickly take out a lot of your withered at once. There's an emote that tells you to look out when he's spawning, and there it is there. You can tell he's trying to get rid of a lot of these guys out of the way first. And Blaze Stalker Droz spawned in. He's going to charge between a lot of your withered and he'll deal really heavy damage. So I've just stunned him to stop that, and I've activated the Berserker mode on my withered to increase their damage. They're going to attack randomly, but because the Blaze Stalker is the only target in range, they'll focus all of their damage on him. Generally with this guy, you want to stop him from moving around as much as you can. If you can stun him, if you can disorient him, if you can just do anything to stop him from charging around and killing all of your withered, then you definitely want to. I believe during that I lost 1 withered, which is pretty good actually. Usually you'd lose a bit more on him, but because I had such a large army I managed to beat him down pretty quickly. And in addition to the Hammer of Justice, the 5-second Paladin stun, I did a lot of work and I came out of that with relatively small losses. These small chests that you find to the left here, these don't require any withered to open, so you can pick these up as you go. They just contain some gold, some ancient mana, and occasionally a Blood of Sargeras. There's an extra route up here that might be easy to miss, and it involves just killing this Wraith and going up the webs. Now I've never actually found anything up here besides this one extra withered you can recruit. I've been all the way up the webs and I don't know if anything can actually spawn up there, but it's worth a look just to confirm. Either way you can kill this Weaver and you can maybe smash a few cocoons to get some more troops. It is however important to realise that if your withered army gets too far out of your range, then they can despawn. so if you fall down and the army tries to run around the long way, you may actually fail the scenario, so proceed with caution. Now as you proceed down here, the path starts to branch a bit. There are lots of side doors that are locked, and unlocking these usually requires 10 withered in your army. At this point, if you don't have 10 withered, you're in pretty bad shape, so most of these doors should be easy to open. Inside this one is just a bunch more of these Nerubian guys along with some cocoons. There's also a few extra withered you can recruit to your army, but the main focus here is the boss at the back. So I just want to clear out all of the extra stuff that's in the way so I can have the room to myself to fight this guy. Now, Brood Guardian Fix is a pretty straightforward boss. First thing I do is just activate the Berserker mode once again. He is going to do this Brood expansion, which just spawns a lot of extra of these little spiders. You can stun this, but really you don't need to because the spiders just die to AoE and they're pretty trivial. He'll also do this Cleaving Claws attack, which will damage any withers that are in front of him. However, this is interruptible, so it should never be allowed to cast. You can see with an army of 28 in Mayhem mode at this point, the bosses tend to die very quickly. Just stun one, cast interrupt another, and then shortly after they should be falling over. In this section I've actually skipped a door just to the left. There's a boss in there which I'll go back to at the end. You generally don't need to wait until the end because he's quite a simple boss. He's just one of the arcane elementals, except he's a giant version of it. However, I just sort of bypassed the door by accident, so we'll come back to that bit at the end. So I'm mostly just retreating to the bottom location here. There's nothing really down here except a few chests, a few extra withers to recruit. But again, it's worth it for the score, it's worth it just to bolster your army a bit. Just get everything out of the way, take your time and play it as safe as possible. There is a locked door down in this section, and if you have 10 withered in your army you can open this. Behind this door are some extra withers to recruit along with a chest, so it's well worth just taking the time to go in here. So with the lower section cleared, I proceed back the way I came to this new sealed door, and this one requires the key from Stalker Joe to unlock. So hopefully by this point you've run into him and managed to kill him with minimal losses, and you can open up this door to the last section of the dungeon. This area is crawling with spiderlings. You'll notice at the bottom here there is a locked door on the left, as well as a path to the right. Now you have to take the right hand path first, so you can pick up the withered on the way and clear everything that's in this right hand room. In here are numerous eggs. Walking over these is going to spawn one of the small spiderlings for you. It's not particularly dangerous, but if you spawn a lot of them at once, you can start getting a lot of chip damage into your withers, which you want to avoid. In the middle of the room is a large version of the Nerubians that you've faced so far. At this point, however, you should have so many withered in your army that this guy poses no more than an annoyance. You can pick up a few chests and a few extra troops for your army here. However, try to take care to avoid the eggs on the ground. Popping them is just going to cause you more hassle, and I don't believe the little spiderlings give very much score. Now as you proceed back the way you came, you'll notice the tunnel on the left that was sealed is now opened, and you can follow this to reach the next set of bosses. Along the way, you'll probably find more wither for your troops. There's this one here that hides behind the stairs, so make sure not to miss him. Every time I've done this so far he's been there, so definitely keep an eye out. Now from this point onwards you're going to be bombarded by a constant set of spawned spiderlings. This is pretty annoying, and it's a good reason to be tank spec just to pick these up. Inside this room are a few husks and a few of these Nerubians. You just want to wait until the boss is out the way and try and grab them and pull them back a little bit. Just let your wither deal with them. They're not too much of a threat, but you usually just want them out of the way before you pull the boss. It's a good idea to pull the boss out of this room so you don't have to deal with the set of spawning spiderlings constantly. I probably should have pulled them back a little bit further than I did, but at this point I guess I'm a little bit overconfident because my army's so big. The two abilities this guy has is the grab withered ability for the first one. He's going to grab one of your withered randomly, and he's going to deal damage over time, and then at the end of the cast he's going to slam the withered on the ground, instantly killing it. For the first one, all I did was cast Blessing of Protection on my withereds. This protects him from the damage and protects him from the slam, and stops me losing that extra troop. The second ability this guy does is a large AoE smash around himself. This is the one you want to have your stun for. You don't want him damaging all these withered that are up in his melee range. As soon as you see him casting this stomp, just stun him and put a stop to that. So with that guy down, you can run around this room here and pick up any chests you need and the remaining troops that are dotted around the room. However, you do have to deal with the constant set of spiderlings that are spawning in, so be cautious. Now as you proceed up these stairs here, you really have to play aggressively. If you stop to try and kill all these spiderlings, you're going to be here all day, your withers are going to be taking damage, and eventually you're going to have nothing left. So you can see I'm just dropping Consecration at the choke points here to try and pick stuff up. I'm spinning hammers around, trying to protect my withered. There are extra withered troops on the sides of this room. However, in hindsight, it may be best just to skip these for now, because if you're hit by one of the spiderlings, it actually interrupts your cast to capture them. So yeah, it's generally just a bad idea to try and recruit these guys with all these spiderlings attacking you. It's probably best just to go upstairs, stop the spawns, and then come back for this later on. At this point your army should be big enough that nothing is really a threat, so these guys weren't particularly essential for me, and I probably wasted a bit of time here that I didn't need to. At the top of the stairs here is the final boss of the dungeon. This guy is not particularly scary at all. At this point you have so many troops that you can just smash him. In addition, his abilities are pretty tame. He does this Web Blast ability, which leaves patches on the ground which are going to damage any troops who stand on them. However, again, he is stunnable, so you can stop that. If he does get the cast off, there's not really a whole lot you can do because you can't directly control the wither movement. However, it's really not that much of a risk. This guy is pretty trivial compared to the other bosses. So the room that I missed earlier here is just behind this sealed door. Again, this one just requires 10 withered to open. And honestly, if you don't have 10, you probably shouldn't be going in here anyway. So inside this room is the Volatile Wraith Lord. He just has the same abilities as the previous elementals, except he has a bit more HP pool and a bit more damage. The usual rules apply here. I just want to clear around the outside of the room. There are some spiderlings, some cocoons, maybe I can get a few extra troops, along with these silk mothers which have about 10 million HP each, so you definitely don't want these coming in during the fight. So at this point I do actually pull the boss by accident while dealing with these devourers. This is a pretty bad situation. So I'm just focusing the boss, trying to interrupt his casts, and I want to DPS down these devourers to get them out the way so the wither's attention is focused on the boss. Fortunately as a paladin I have double interrupts from my rebuke and my Avenger's shield, so I can deal with all of those casts. Again at 25% he'll try to unstable explosion. You can easily just stun him to stop that, and your army should be big enough at this point that you can nuke him down before the stun expires. Now there's one more room to think about here before you're done, and this is the one that we opened at the start with the set of 2 withering berserkers. Now this is a scary, scary room. You don't want to come here until everything else in the dungeon is cleared. You can see inside here we have packs of 3 volatile wraiths all together at once. So I'm just trying to go around the side and clear out the smaller ones to give me a bit more space to work with. But either way this is going to be messy. So I pulled these 3 initially. I'm just trying to pop my DPS cooldowns to stop them, interrupt as much as I can with Rebuke, Avenger's Shields. Unfortunately I don't have enough interrupts to get all of them, and another Volatile Wraith has just patrolled into me. If you're doing this in future, try and avoid that patrol, because dealing with 3 is bad, but dealing with 4 is catastrophic. Fortunately I do have these extra interrupts as a paladin, so I'm able to lock down a lot of these. I just want to try and stun the explosions, however I missed that one. My withers are taking a lot of damage at this point, so I have to play extra careful, stop as many explosions as I can. After you've dealt with that pack, it's just a matter of clearing out these small guys and then dealing with the remaining 2 Volatile Wraiths on the other side here. Same tactic applies, just have your withers focus 1 at a time, interrupt when you can, stun the explosions. Probably a few casts will go off, but hopefully your withers have high enough HP at this point that you can just power through it. So there you have it, the scenario is clear. At this point all you have left to do is to go around and claim all of your chests. Now the number of withered you have left at the end is going to dictate how many chests you can pick up. Medium sized ones require 5, large sized ones require 10. So just spend the time to run around, find out what you need. I'm not going to link which chest is which because frankly I'm a bit lazy and I can't be bothered looking it up, but you can find this sort of thing on Wowhead and it'll tell you what kind of items you get in each chest, and you can decide for yourself which sort of one you like to open. So thanks for watching this Withered training guide. Hopefully this helps you out in clearing the scenario. Honestly, once you get the tactics figured down, it's not particularly difficult, so best of luck to you and thanks for watching.